Hey guys, how you doing? It is Pinnacle. This is a cut down summary version of my 5 or 6, whatever it got to, part series of upgrading the Kawasaki headlights on a Z1000sx. So this is going to be the shorter compiled version. If you want more detail how to do it, please check my other videos for the complete 5 or 6 part series. Okay, so first thing you want to do is you want to strip down your bike. The first thing you can do is you're going to take off the shroud that is covering your speedo. 4 bolts there, take that out. You want to then remove your wing mirrors, you want to remove your windshield, and you want to remove the cover plate underneath the windshield. Once you've done that, you will remove the side fairings left and right. And once you've done that, you will remove the headlight fairing, which will contain the headlight as well. Little tip, don't undo the bottom 2 screws until the entire unit's out. That will save you dropping your headlight when it slips out of the fairing. But once that's all stripped down, you are then ready to start stripping your lights down and building up your new lenses. So once you've removed your headlights from the front fairing, you want to be warming your oven up to about 220 degrees for about 10 minutes. Then turn it off. Very important, turn it off. Open the door for about 30 seconds and then put an upside down baking tin on the bottom shelf. Remove the top shelf if you haven't done already. That tin should be cold. That should not have been in the oven when you're heating the oven up, because it needs to be cold for the light to sit on. Then put the lights in the oven, making sure they don't touch the sides because they might be very hot and might melt something. Then close the door and set a timer for 10 minutes. Don't turn the oven back on. There's enough heat in there for what you need to do. 10-15 minutes, and then get the light out. Then work your way from the middle. It's going to be very hot, but work your way from the middle of the light and do them one side at a time. When I say the middle of the light, I mean the middle of the lens here, so the top of the first light. What you want to do is you want to do the 2 clips at the top either side, pull that up a little bit, then work your way down to the other 2 clips, then the other 2 clips, and then there's one more clip at the bottom. After you've done that, it should all come apart fairly easy. Okay, the next thing to do is start removing this chrome insert. So we need to undo 3 screws. The one on the left I've taken out already there, but that was what was holding the bulb in. There was like a wire frame in there. So you take those 3 screws out, and then you need to undo the adjuster screws. They're the 2 cogs that you use to adjust the light. Once you've done that fully, the chrome lens on the other side should just drop out. Yeah, so once you've got the chrome lens out, you want to turn it over. You want to undo these 2 screws on the corner. There's another 2 screws up the top on the other corner, and there's also a round bolt which you want to take out as well. So once you've taken all of those out, you're going to start fitting that to the new back plate. The only thing you need to keep from that chrome lens is the round bolt and the 2 corner brackets. You don't need the screws that hold the brackets in. We'll be using different screws. If you lay the rest of the components out like this, it's a lot easier to see what you've got and what you're going to be using. So now it's time to build your back plates. You want to get the back plate, you want to put that round bolt, use a pair of mole grips to thread that through the top left hand corner and into that black pipe. What you then want to do is you want to put 2 black screws on each of the corners. You put 1 big nut over those screws. Then you put the corner plate on, followed by a washer and a small nut on each of those corners. So what you should have is what I've got left here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the lamp itself to the bezel. So you want 3 bolts that you've got to change over from the little ones, and that's the top right, bottom left and bottom right, with the flat side of the lamp pointing downwards. Once you've put these 3 bolts on, you want to use 3 large nuts on top of the bolts, then put the 4 gold screws to attach the lamp to the bezel. Once you've done that, the backing plate goes on. You put a washer on each of the new bolts, followed by a small nut. Now we have the lamp fully assembled. We can put that back into the light housing. I would suggest using the cloth here once you've given the light a good clean, because any oil from your fingertips can get onto the chrome, and the chrome will heat up after a while and it will go yellow. So pushing this in position first of all where the adjuster screws are, then by hand thread through the adjuster screws. Make sure that these adjuster screws go through the holes on the backing plate. If they don't go through the holes on the backing plate, you could have problems with actually hitting the back of the backing plate and not penetrating through the holes. Also, you want to screw in far enough on both adjuster screws so that this round bolt at the top here can be pushed securely into the cup holder. Now you may have to manually push that in until you hear a click. If you don't push that in manually, you're never going to be able to adjust the lights to the correct level because they'll always be too low. Once you've secured the lamps and bezels back in place, now put the lenses back on, put it in the oven. Again, 220 degrees, leave it for 10 minutes without the lights in. Don't put that upside down baking tin in there either. And then after 10 minutes, open the door, leave it for 30 seconds or so while you're putting the light on the upside down baking tray or baking tin. Put it in the oven for 10-15 minutes. When it's ready, come out and gradually squeeze it down. You want to work your way from the middle again to the outsides. As you're going down, you're securing the clips. Just put some constant pressure on this. It's slow and it goes down, but it does go down. You want to use a cloth because the lenses are going to be quite hot at this stage, and also you don't want to start getting fingerprints all over your lenses again as well. Just be sure you don't put too much pressure on those struts on the bottom there, because you could end up just snapping the entire thing in half. You don't want to be doing that at all. Once your lens is cooled off, you can put that back into the front fairing and secure it in place with the bottom two screws. And the next thing you're going to do, all the wires are all over the place at this moment. Don't worry too much about it at the moment. What you want to do is you want to put this front fairing on and secure it with the two 10mm bolts. Remember, the left-hand side bolt is going to have that little hanger on for the wires. This is a pain in the ass to do. The best thing I can advise, first of all, is on the front fairing itself, you've got two little clips which go over a plastic piece. Make sure they are centered first before you put it on. Because otherwise you're never going to get the bolts in, and you're going to be screwing it, thinking it's going in, and then it's just going to pop off. And it took me a long time to find a technique to put these bolts in. So be patient, and once it's on, we can start doing the wiring. Just to be very clear, only fit the fairing and the house and the lights back on your bike at this stage, nothing else, because you need as much room as possible to move around. Now, the easiest thing, first of all, is to fit these two push clips. That will set you up with the wiring loom in place. It should go in easy. You see me struggling with this one a little bit. It means one of the pins inside is bent. So basically, my lights didn't work, and it was all to do with that particular clip there. I had to go through and check everything, and I saw that one of the pins was bent. See how this one clicks in? Nice and easy, straight away. That's how it should work. Okay, so once they're in, the biggest problem you're going to find is that you're going to think, oh, how am I going to run these earths to the battery? Well, don't worry. I got a multimeter out and I tested where the grounds were on the bike, and you can actually bolt these to the wing mirrors because the wing mirrors mount onto the metal frame of the bike, and that is a good ground. So we'll talk through that bit in a minute as well. Next thing you're going to want to figure out is how you're going to run your positive to the battery. Now, I personally run this down if you're sitting on the bike, on the right hand side of the bike, so not the side we're looking at the moment. It needs to run along the other side. You'll see you'll have a radiator cap, and then you will see a hose which runs all the way down the side, and it goes to the reservoir which is under the seat. You want to take that sort of path, but then you want to pull it up just underneath the petrol tank and back into underneath the seat, and you should be good then. Another thing we've noticed here is this connector does not fit what we've got. So the wiring loom needs to be modified. Now to do this, you can literally just take the tape off of this one, or you can just, if you can, just pull back the rubber grommet from around this connector. That will expose two L-shape connectors, and what we're going to do, I'll show you when this comes off, we are literally going to get rid of this black piece of plastic that's holding the connectors in, and we are going to put these connectors directly onto our loom that we get with the retrofit bulbs. Now the easiest way to do this is just push one of the side of the metal prongs, and then you can free them up from the housing, and then you can just get rid of the housing completely and fit it into the two spade connectors that we've got on that block. So you can see here, once the housing is free, you've got those two spade connectors. They can just push straight on there. Now you can use that rubber, reuse that rubber grommet, and you can actually just push that over the gold L spade connectors that we've got there, and then secure it in place with insulation tape on each end. So here you can see where I'm actually running the live cable. I'm flipping it through there. You can see I've removed the upper frame fairing, or the upper frame cover, which sits between that fairing there and the petrol tank. Now I'm going to figure out how to actually pull this up above and by the side of the petrol tank, and then we will lift the petrol tank up very slightly, put the wire under there, make sure the fuse is in the seat compartment. You don't want the fuse to be underneath the petrol tank, otherwise you're just going to have to keep taking things off every single time you want to change a fuse, etc. So yeah, just make sure you got enough slack so that fuse that you can see there is actually in the seat compartment itself. Once you've connected the other connectors up as per the wiring diagram that's been given to you by Retrofitlab, you are ready to connect the positive to the terminal. I've disconnected the earth here while I'm doing this, just to make sure that I don't electrocute anything or blow any fuses. And once that's in place, I will connect the earth back up and we'll be good to go. Make sure your earth is secure on the wing mirrors here as well, on the bolt on one of the wing mirrors. I think I found it easier to put the earthing strap to the top bolt of the right wing mirror, but you may find a different solution, whatever suits you. So here I'm connecting up the earth back on the battery, and we're going to be testing these lights out right away. So here we're actually going to test out the lights. You can see I've got yellow lights on the side lights. I've actually changed those for LED bulbs as well now. And you can see we have two lights working now rather than just one, which is great. They need to be adjusted, but we can go through that in a little bit. So we're running through a time lapse of putting the bike back together again. The wiring itself, as long as you keep the connectors free that are coming out from the side lamps, which is the daytime running lamps, and the actual main headlights themselves, you can disconnect all three connectors from the main headlights. So as long as you keep those free, you can then secure up the rest of your wiring loom so that it's out of the way. Just remember that, test it by turning the steering left and right, making sure nothing's going to get tugged, nothing's going to get kinked, and also try and keep the wiring away from the horn, because you'll have a very weird sound if you've got like connectors on that horn. It'll be like a jingle bells horn, which is not great, not the sort of thing you want. So yeah, once you've secured everything up, just retest your lights again, because you don't want to be in a position where you've kind of put everything back on and then you've realized, oh, hang on, I've unplugged something, and then you've got to cut all your cable ties and all your insulation tape to try and figure out what the hell's gone wrong here. So yeah, there's a couple of little tips and tricks that we've gone through. And if you watch the main videos, which I think have split into 5 or 6 parts, it goes into a lot of detail. There is a lot of waffling and it is a bit slow. So check that if you want to go over it all in a lot more detail. But apart from that, I think this should give you exactly what you need. In terms of adjusting the headlights, so for a Kawasaki on UK roads, you really want to find yourself somewhere which has got a nice flat surface and a big wall. I would suggest taking some masking tape, taking yourself a tape measure and taking yourself over to that location when it's kind of, it doesn't have to be pitch black because these lights are quite bright. So when it's kind of, when it's dusk, the lights level is going dimming a little bit. Get yourself over there, measure yourself 25 foot away from the wall, and then get your bike in a position where you're facing the wall exactly. Now, my particular bike is from the headlight upwards. It's about 31 inches from the floor to the center of the light. So anything below 35, you want to be measuring that exact distance up the wall from 25 feet. So go and make a mark on the wall at 25 feet with a bit of, it's a tall wall, 31 inches with a bit of masking tape, and measure a couple of points along. So you've got about 2 or 3 meters of masking tape at 31 inches. Get yourself a little point which is directly in front of your bike and put another piece of masking tape vertically across the horizontal piece of masking tape. And then you should be in a position where you can actually adjust the lights and have both lights level with that. The main beams that you put on, the high beams rather, they will go above the line, but you don't need to adjust that because that's part of this bulb anyway. So as long as you've got your dipped beams level with that line at 31, then you should be all good. Hopefully this has helped, guys. If it has, please leave a like. Any questions at all, leave a comment and I'll try and do my best to answer them as well. Take care and ride safe.